there's no way.
If you go back to what age?
If I go back to between like 18, 19 years old, roughly that period of my life.
Yeah.
There was no way I could have saved $27 a day.
Here's really the question. Do you have friends, and do you think you have people who work with you who are making more than $50,000 a year and they're not saving $27 a day? They're not even saving $10 a day.
This is true. I actually did a bit of research on this, and it says approximately 40 to 50 million families, if we just take the United States, where I think there's 330 million people roughly, approximately 40 to 50 million families in the US can realistically save $27 a day. This represents roughly the top 30 to 35% of households. For everyone else, the bottom 65 to 70%, saving that amount would require either extreme poverty level budgeting or is a mathematical impossibility.
Over 40 million people they think can afford to save $27.50 a day?
Yes, it's based on income and expenditure data from 2025 to 2026. Approximately 40 to 50 million families in the US can realistically save $27 a day.
So for those 40 to 50 million people in the United States, that would be life-changing. Now, are there people who can't afford to save that? Absolutely. In the United States, I was just in Arizona. I just did a keynote speech. I asked the audience, this is when the government was shut down. I said, how many people do you think in America are taking and receiving SNAP checks?
What's that?
Thank you. Because by the way, most Americans don't even know what a SNAP check is. That's a check that the government gives to people for food. And the dollar amount's a little over $6 a day. So smart people in a room, by the way, I didn't know the answer to this a week prior either. The answer is about 41.5 million Americans get a SNAP check. When I told the room that, the room gasped. I said, so when you hear that the government was shut down for 6 weeks, that was 3 pay cycles. Well, the average American doesn't have 2 weeks of expenses set aside. I mean, I don't think everybody fully grasps the problem right now. 4 out of 10 Americans can't get their hands on $1,000 in case of emergency purposes. If you actually dig into the Federal Reserve data, it's 37% of Americans can't get their hands on $400 in case of emergency purposes. So there's a whole section of America that's truly struggling. But there's a whole lot of America that is still struggling. They're living paycheck to paycheck, but their money's being taken from them all the time because they don't have a plan for it.
For that bottom 60% of Americans that my research says wouldn't be able to save $27 a day, the data reveals a discretionary income cliff. Once you drop below the top 40% of earners, the money available after bills vanishes rapidly. The top 20%, which earn, I think, $96,000 per household, are in a surplus. The middle 20% have a $15,000 surplus, which the $27 a day takes 66% from. But the bottom 40% often have a roughly $2,000 surplus, so it's impossible for them to get to the $10,000. For that bottom 40%, what's the advice for them?
Start with something. Okay, so like we took this 50 and we said cut it in half to 25. I would say, can you save $1 a day? I have actually talked about this idea. Really simple. Could you save $10 a day for 100 days? So like if you're listening to me and you happen to really be struggling right now, my question would be, could you save $10 a day for 100 days? Why? Because it would get you your first $1,000. And you now have more than 50% of Americans who don't have savings. And I can't tell you how many people have come back after 100 days and said, okay, I did it. It wasn't easy. For some people, saving $10 a day could be really, really hard. But you're into fitness. You saw my son who just came in here. Fitness is built through daily action, right? It's built through daily action, daily eating well, going to the gym, doing certain things on a regular basis. Saving's the same thing. There's a company called Acorns. I invested in Acorns back in 2015. Acorns came up with an app that helps you roll your change up. So if I go to Starbucks and I spend $9.50 on a coffee, you can round it up where the 50 cents to $10 is put into investments. just rounding up your change. And people have saved tens of thousands of dollars over the last 10 years by just rounding up their change.